Hey, what is up, YouTube? This is the Merman Master coming at you guys from the Team Time Riders Yugioh channel today with a brand new deck profile, something I haven't profiled on this channel before. Maybe I've done it before, but I'm not quite sure. But anyway, guys, today I am bringing you my official Sacred Beast deck profile. First, I want to give a couple of shout outs. First one to Dave Wu for this fantastic playmat that I got from him, signed by the voice actor of Yusei and of Yugi, Greg Abbey and Dan Green. And then also moving into the deck, I'm going to go into sort of the second shout out. So today, guys, this is a Sacred Beast deck profile. That's right. It's a Sacred Beast deck profile, more so of a character deck style. And the way that I built this is unlike anyone else's Sacred Beast deck profile. What I was really focused on with this profile was creating a deck that really was all about just one each of the brand new of the Sacred Beast monsters. And as you guys know, the structure deck has just been announced, so really interested in that. But anyway, guys, I'm going to start with the deck profile. Only one extra deck monster for now. This is a character deck profile, kind of a little bit of Kagemaru / Marcel Bonaparte. So we're going to first start out with the main monsters themselves, guys. All three of the Sacred Beasts. This is Uriah, Lord of Searing Flames, Haman, the Lord of Striking Thunder, and finally Raviel, Lord of Phantasms. I want to give a huge shout out to my good friend and member Dark Magic Ian for hooking me up with these ultimate rare first ads. Guys, these are phenomenal. It's been a long time coming, but really excited to have these, and I feel like this is the penultimate way to play the Sacred Beast. But unlike a lot of the other profiles, I wanted to do it where it was just one of each Sacred Beast. And I'll show you some of the cards that I have in here to sort of stay true to that theme in the same way that GX is. Yeah, this might not be the best, way to play it, but it's the way that I certainly like. So Haman, Raviel, and Uriah, their effects are not really that important. The only ones that you're really going to use are sort of the Raviel effect, which, so Haman allows you to special summon tokens. Raviel allows you to special summon tokens. Uriah, when he's in defense mode, would redirect all attacks from himself. And then when an attack, he destroys a monster by battle, he can inflict 1,000 damage. And then Uriah gains 1,000 for every trap in your graveyard, and then also pops face down cards. So their effects are like whatever, and you're sort of running them, I guess, more for the flavor. But the some of the cards out right now really help to make this happen. So first off, for the monsters, we've got 3 copies of Dark Summoning Beast, and this is your main monster. This was a card run by Marcel Bonaparte in the GX series to go into his Armityle there. And basically, this card's got 2 main effects. Its first effect is a Lone Fire Blossom, a hard once per turn for any Sacred Beast monster in the deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. It's just going to be the main way that you get your Sacred Beasts out. But it has a heinous and disgusting restriction. In addition to being a hard once per turn, meaning no other way can you activate this effect, just one time per turn, this card also has the extra added restriction that after you special summon using this effect, you cannot conduct your battle phase, or you cannot attack with monsters you control for the rest of the turn. This is actually a terrible restriction, but you have to run this card at 3, primarily because it's the main way that you're able to get these beasts out on the field. It's the only way you're able to do it. And it also, primarily works well if you're playing for the grind game. So that's the 3 of these guys. You can also banish them from grave to search any Sacred Beast you want from your deck to your hand. And I can explain a couple of combos with that coming up later. Next, we've got 2 copies of Phantom of Chaos. This allows you to take any dark monster in your graveyard, banish it, and then have its effect be the same thing. So you usually banish your Dark Summoning Beast if you have no way to revive it from your graveyard, and then this effect can copy it and get a Sacred Beast out of your deck. Another card used by Marcel Bonaparte. Next is 2 copies of Yugioh. This is actually fantastic. Really, really great at boosting your Sacred Beasts up, gaining you a little bit of life points, especially when you need it, and also can special summon itself during the battle phase, which is really, really good, especially if you need a monster on the field to immediately tribute your Dark Summoning Beast for. Yugioh, I think, is one of the most versatile cards in this deck and definitely earns its space. Now we've got these 2 guys over here, Dark Grepher and Dark Armageddon Knight. Basically, you use these guys to mill either your Dark Summoning Beast or to mill this next card, Stygian Street Patrol, to the graveyard. And basically, you're milling your dark stuff to the graveyard so you can search Sacred Beasts, or in the case of Stygian Street Patrol, so you can banish it and special summon that Fiend monster from your hand to the field. So really, really good, really, really good card like that. And Stygian actually also has an extra added effect that I ended up getting off one time against a friend and winning me the duel. It's just when you destroy a monster by battle, inflict 100 points of damage times its level. It's really stupid, nearly useless, but it's still fun to get off every now and then. And the last card I have is just 1 copy of Summoner Monk. I've tested out like 2 or 3, but I've noticed that you want your hand advantage in your hand more often than not for some of the other cards I'm going to show you guys. Now, that's with the monsters out of the way, moving on to these spells. Just 2 copies of Fallen Paradise. I've been waxing between 2 and 3 on this card. I think 3, I see it too often. 2, I see it, maybe a little bit too little. I'm still seeing exactly how I feel on it, but this is the single card that makes your Sacred Beast not completely unplayable. To start off, first and foremost, this card is blanket protection for not only Uriah, Hammond, and Raviel, but also for Armityle, the Chaos Phantom, protecting them from being targeted or destroyed by your opponent's card effects. So the only way that they're going to get them off the field is by battle or by a non-destruction, non-targeting removal effect, like something like Grand Mole, for instance, or Ignister. So really, really fantastic card, but its main effect is by far the best one, which is that if you control a Sacred Beast monster on your side of the field, this card is basically a once per turn, no restrictions, Pot of Greed. Insane. Absolutely insane. You must run this card. And the key is, I guess, finding the golden ratio that works best for you. I have 2 in here now, but definitely thinking about bumping the number up to 3. Now, here's where things get interesting. 2 copies of Transmodify. Now, I run a lot of level 4 Fiends, not the least of which is the Yugioh and those Chaos Phantasms in there. Basically, you use this card. If you summon Yugioh during the battle phase, you can Transmodify into Dark Summoning Beast and then go into a Sacred Beast. So it just gives you a little bit more versatility. I used to have this at 3, but I was seeing it too often. I think 2 is a pretty good number to have it at. Some people would even say bumping it down to 1, but I think it's really good. Now, when I was talking about hand advantage earlier, I'm talking about Twin Twister. The deck dies to back row, and there's a lot of really, really strong non-targeting, non-destruction back row removal that's currently out right now. And with the increasing relevance of back row in this most recent format, I think Twin Twisters is a fantastic choice. And keeping your hand advantage is a little bit tough in this deck, so having the ability to keep cards in your hand for Twin Twister is really, really good. Now, I was talking about your Sacred Beast not really being able to attack and sort of getting destroyed a lot of the times, and I have this card in here. I feel like this is the perfect place to run it. 2 copies of Pot of Dichotomy. Pot of Dichotomy is a card that basically says you activate it in the start of your main phase 1 in the same way that you would activate Pot of Extravagance. Then you shuffle back any 3 monsters in your graveyard. All 3 of them must have different names or different types of their monster. And then you shuffle them back in, and then you draw 2 cards, but you cannot conduct your battle phase during the turn you activate this effect. And this is actually really perfect for this deck because when your Sacred Beasts get destroyed, all 3 of them have very different attributes. So for instance, Raviel is a Dark Fiend, Hammon is a Light Thunder, and Uriah is a Fire Pyro type. So oftentimes if you have at least 1 Sacred Beast in your graveyard, you also have the Fiend types, Spellcaster types, and Warrior types making up the dark support cards in the deck. This card is almost always live when you get it. So really, really cool. And since you're missing your battle phase anyway, you honestly don't really care. And it's just pretty much a free draw too. Next, got one Pot of Acquisitiveness. Do a lot of banishing in the deck, and Pot of Acquisitiveness helps shuffle back your stuff, especially banish Sacred Beasts or Dark Summoning Beasts, so you can reuse them. Just one copy. Now, moving on to this card, the other card, Phantasmal Martyrs. And this I'm actually thinking about bumping up to 2 as well. People used to think that it was an absolutely awful card. It's basically discard all cards in your hand when you have 2 or more cards in your hand and control either Hamon or Uriah, and then you can special summon 3 Phantasmal Martyr tokens. And then the idea was you're supposed to use them to special summon Raviel because it counts as the 3 Fiend tributes. But you know, if you're discarding your entire hand, you're pretty much like before going to be just discarding the Raviel that you were planning on summoning in the first place. But enter Dark Summoning Beast, who, you know, while he's in the graveyard, you can banish him to search a Sacred Beast. So you use Phantasmal Martyrs, discard a bunch of cards, and then banish this to search the Raviel, and then you can special summon the Raviel. And the big thing that gives this the advantage over some of your other cards, especially with the ease of summoning your Sacred Beast, is the fact that any monster summoned with this, if you already have a Sacred Beast on the field, you can summon the Raviel and then still have your battle phase and not have to worry about the insane restriction on your Dark Summoning Beast. So that actually works out incredibly well. And I never thought I'd say that Phantasmal Martyrs would be a good card, but it honestly is. Next, of course, we've got one copy of Rhoda. Pretty self-explanatory. Monster Reborn to get your cards back. Raigeki helps pop and clear the board for attacks. Foolish Burial, mill whatever you need, Stygian or Dark Summoning Beast to the graveyard. And then finally, Terraforming for the search. That's it for these spells. Moving on to the traps. Now, the focus of the traps that I have right here is continuous traps, because I wanted to have a large number of continuous traps. Now, point be told, guys, Uriah is not going to be strong in this deck, and ironically, Uriah is the weakest in this deck, despite being the strongest in its own dedicated Uriah trap monster deck, which I should do a profile on one of those at some point. It's a fantastically fun deck, but Uriah doesn't really have any staying power in this deck, and so I wanted to give him a little bit of staying power by just focusing on continuous traps. And one of those is perfectly, you know, sort of situated in this deck is Fiendish Chain, a card that has largely fallen out of favor due to the nature of it being continuous and easy to pop, as well as it also being a card that targets. But it's great monster effect negation, some of the best in the game still, and I feel like it gives this deck some staying power while at the same time also providing tributes for Uriah. So that makes it really, really good for me. Next and the last three of course, is 3 copies of Escape from the Dark Dimension. I love this card because you're always banishing your Stygians and your Dark Summoning Beasts and stuff for different effects and activations and searches and whatever. So you're always going to usually have a Dark Summoning Beast or 2 banished. This card will get them back, and then when they tribute themselves, they don't get banished, they just go back to the graveyard, and then this card just sits on the field, getting ready for you to tribute it for a Raviel or for a Hamon summon. 2 copies of Call of the Haunted, pretty much the same reason why. Then 1 copy of Metal Reflect Slime, 1 copy of Mistake. You do a lot of drawing, not as much searching, and then finally a Metaverse. And the one extra deck monster we have in here, guys, this is a 40-card deck, is 1 copy of Chaos Phantasm Armityle. Really interesting card, pretty much useless before the advent of the monster of the field spell, but he's just super fun, interesting card to be able to play that nobody really sees coming. And I think like if you're able to get this guy out, you're gonna win the duel anyway, and he's just very much a swag play. You know, boost him to 10k, indestructible and untargetable when you got the field spell out, and just swing over whatever your opponent has, and that's that. And he's also indestructible by battle, if that really sort of helps out. But yeah, that's gonna about do it for the deck profile, guys. Let me know what you thought in the description below.